Hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about how to create a meal plan that is sustainable for you and that is something that so that you're making a lasting change, not a diet, but something that is sustainable for you. And it's working in foods that you already love and foods that you already enjoy. Because the thing is we have a lot of emotions around food. It's like, it's one of our social aspects. Like, you go out to dinner with your friends or go on a date night with your husband, or like when you go to some kind of event, usually there's food, right? Like food is a very social, fun, exciting, like tasting new things. But it's okay to have all those things. But when we overdo it, then that's when we cause stress in our body. But sometimes we're overdoing it because we have stress in our body. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. First, I want to show you how to create a meal plan. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of maybe those little triggers that might be causing you to have certain cravings or things that you might be doing to emotionally eat. So we're going to kind of do over a shoulder thing, and I'm going to kind of show you how I set up a meal plan for me. Okay. All right. So I have like a little example here of just kind of what I do. So I talked to you last time about what I do is I go and I figured out for me all of the foods that cause inflammation in my body. So the foods that I should kind of stay away from and shouldn't eat as often, I put those on my once a week list because they're foods I still want to have, but they're foods that I need to eat in moderation if I want to be at my optimal. And then I have a list of foods that are like optimal for my body. And as I've been doing this for a few years now. So now first I started with the list that I just found on the internet of foods that were anti-inflammatory. And then I've just kind of adjusted things based on that, things that I like to eat, and also based on foods that as I started intentionally eating, I started realizing that maybe my stomach didn't like agree with certain foods, or maybe certain foods, the way it was cooked, or certain things like that. And I'm always wanting to eat intentionally and eating at higher vibration foods, meaning foods that are going to serve my body and keep my body like, well, one, so that I'm feel satisfied, right? And two, so that like my body is able to perform optimally. Okay. So if you come over to my screen, when I was wanting to release weight, I'm sure you understand that calories in and calories out. So the more calories we put in our body that we're not burning, then we're going to put on weight. Our body is going to store that. But if we're eating in a calorie deficit, then our body is going to naturally release that weight because we're burning more calories than we're putting in our body. But I didn't want to have to think about calories, and I didn't want to have to, I wanted to eat in a deficit, but I didn't want to like stress myself out of like having to track food and like always thinking about it. So what I did is I took and I went off of that list that I told you about, and I figured out foods and things that I like based on the list, right? So like one thing on the list is like blueberries and blackberries. And I love berries. So that, and something else on my list was oats. I love oats. So I'll make overnight oats a lot for breakfast because I can find like tons of recipes online for different ones, and they just are yummy and they feel like a treat. So what I did is, okay, so this is a basic like plan, but okay, so I figured out that with the eggs and the bread that I want, it would be about 300 calories for breakfast. And then say I wanted a snack later, like you can kind of see that I figured I took a meal, right? And I basically took the food ideas and then I went to trusty old Google right here. And let's just say cabbage is something that I can eat. So cabbage soup. What about cabbage lasagna? Oh, see, there's a cabbage lasagna recipe. So then I went there, I figured out the cabbage lasagna recipe. You can take this recipe, you can go down whatever. I don't really need to show you, but a lot of time at the end of recipes, they'll have like the calorie count. And if they don't, you can take and copy the ingredients and you can stick it into AI and it will tell you how many calories are in that meal. So what you're doing is you're just planning that meal. You're planning it based on the calorie needs that you want to have in a day. But the thing is also for me, I don't like eating the same thing all the time. So I would plan out my meals like a week in advance. And then sometimes I'd be like, well, what if I want to like adjust it? Like, say, what if instead of oatmeal, I would like yogurt that day? So I would just look at the serving size for the yogurt. And then I'd be like, oh, it's like the serving size is like, say, a half a cup. And so then I would just eat a half a cup of yogurt. So I always go by serving size. I never eat, well, I'm not going to say never, but I now am very conscious about eating within the serving size. And so anyway, basically you can figure that out. So hopefully all of this makes sense. Like you can just take and do that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is, so I've been talking to you a lot about anchoring in your warrior self, right? And I've talked to you about that I anchored it in with chocolate, okay? Because taste and touch and smell, all engaging all of our senses help anchor stuff in. But our senses can also, they can anchor things in for our good, but then they can also anchor things in a way that's maybe not so good. So like one of the things is we could have like really positive memories around a food, like chips. Chips are one of my vices. Well, I have a lot of good memories around chips. Like growing up, we got chips at special occasions, like around Christmas time and around Thanksgiving. And usually, and because my family growing up, we ate pretty healthy. And so we would get junk food on special occasions. And so I had this really good memory with them. So every time I would get stressed or, have, well, any kind of stress or I was feeling inadequate of some kind, then I would want to grab for chips. But I didn't realize why that was a food that I wanted to eat all the time, because it made me feel good and it made me feel better. Why? Because I associated a memory with it, a good memory. And so then for the moment, it made me feel good and it gave me that quick dopamine, right? So, usually when we have cravings, it's signaling our body that we have some kind of unmet emotion, something that we are feeling or experiencing, like something that we either like we're feeling a lack of love, or maybe we're stressed or whatever. And we just want to like hurry and fix that emotion and feel better. So then we'll use a food that we have subconsciously a good memory and we will eat it. But then on the opposite, there's also some people that will punish themselves with food, that they'll just eat food and keep eating it and stuffing it to the point of their stomach hurting because they're just trying to stuff down those emotions that they're feeling and just trying to like, it's almost like they're hiding them and just trying to like bury them deep down because they are ashamed that they were feeling them, or they had guilt, or there's always some kind of something associated when you have some kind of food thing. So if you think that's you, then maybe, talk to a licensed therapist about it. I have talked to a therapist, and I've also, there's a lot of journaling techniques that I'm going to suggest that I've done personally that have helped me. And I found that a combination of both have actually helped me to get past a lot of those like feelings. So when you're, another thing is we will have like routine and tribal eating, like we were talking about, when we are eating is a very social thing, and it's like food is everywhere. And so it just feels like very like you're celebrating when you're eating, and it just is a very, I don't know, it can feel really good. And so that's another thing just to be aware of. Or routine eating. Now routine eating, like where you have to eat like it's noon and you might not be hungry, but you're just going to eat because it's in your routine. The cool thing about that is if you have that where it's set in you to do routine, you can break it. That's the good news. And actually, it means that you'll have an easier time being able to break some of your eating stuff because you are so easily into a routine. Like you can easily fall into a routine. And I've noticed some people that can easily fall into a routine. Maybe they can eat the same meal, like every day for a week or something, like. But I am not that. I have a hard time eating the same meal. And I used to actually be a mood eater. And that's something else. Like we were talking about having the good memories that are associated. It can be, you can have a good memory associated with any kind of food. And usually, like I said, when you have those cravings, or you're in the mood for something, it's usually our head craving it. It's usually our head being like, "Ooh, I want that." Unless it's something like your body is really lacking, like say you're really craving something salty. Sometimes it can be a signal of lacking in salt, but then also sometimes it can just be a signal of something else. Like fat, I can't remember what salt is, but fat, I know that it's when you're craving it, you're stressed. So the food, like, let's see. So I had said that, it's an unmet like emotion that you're feeling, right? Well, also you like with the punishment and the stuff, there's one more. I didn't write it down. Well, it's okay. All right. So, when you're eating, something that I like to do now is so I'm going to tell you a quick story. Last week, I've been kind of working with my therapist through some trauma, some sexual trauma from my childhood. And so last week I was feeling a little extra stressed because of working through some of that stuff that's been like stuck in me for a long time. So because of that, my brain just was like, freaking out. Right. And so then it wanted to go back to its old pattern of binge eating, because when I didn't feel good, I would do two things. One, I would eat so that I could feel better, but then also I was eating to kind of punish myself. So I was associating like a good memory with like a certain type of food. And usually it's a specific person that you associate with that. Like, say your grandma always made fresh baked cookies, and you have like a really great memory of eating cookies with your grandma and cooking cookies with your grandma. And so you love cookies, and every time you eat cookies, you maybe think of your grandma, and it just makes you like have all that love and all that gushiness come out, right? Well, that's awesome if that's all that it's going through when you're just having that one cookie. But if you're eating a bunch of cookies, and that's what I would do, I would eat a whole bunch of stuff to just stuff down those emotions that I was feeling. I wanted to feel that good love, right? And that happiness. But then at the same time, I was stuffing down all the shame and guilt and everything, and like filling my stomach to the point that it felt like it was going to pop, like at Thanksgiving, right? And that's not healthy. So now what I do is when I have some kind of a hunger signal, I go, is this my brain or is this my body? Am I really hungry? Or am I trying to cope? And last week, I forgot to ask myself that question. And I realized I started like eating all this food and like wanting to eat everything in sight. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. What's going on? One of the days I made myself sick, and I was like, what the heck? I thought that I had worked through this. I thought I had, like, this wasn't me. But then I realized, I was like, oh, I've been dealing with a lot of stress, like heavy stress this week. And my brain automatically wants to go back to comfort zone, right? And it wants to feel, because our brain likes to go back to what feels familiar, because that's our whole brain's job, is to make us feel safe and to help us feel like, so we can cope, right? And so sometimes it'll take memories from like 8-year-old us. And that's why sometimes you can get triggered by something, like thinking, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm stupid or whatever, because it triggered the childhood you back when you're like 8 years old or younger, of feeling stupid. And so then that will come up and you won't even realize why you were triggered, but it was really coming from your childhood self. Does that make sense? So one thing that I suggest that's really worked for me is I figured out how to handle my stress. Now, yes, in those moments, I didn't do well handling my stress. But when you don't do well, what do? We forgive ourselves and we move on and we do better next time. So then I was like, okay, I recognize that I've been stress eating. What do I need to do when I get stressed? Okay, first of all, I need to go back to when I'm eating. Am I eating because I'm hungry, or I'm eating because my brain wants to have some quick dopamine, right? So, and then I'm like, okay, if I'm stressed, how do I deal with stress? And then it's like, do some breathing exercises, do some meditation, maybe take a bath, do things that for me totally relieve stress and just make me feel more centered so I don't want to eat. Another thing that I like to ask is, what is my body trying to tell me right now? Because a lot of the time our body will signal something our body will know before our brain knows. So that's another thing. Like our body keeps the score. It really does. And our body will signal things. It's like I really do believe that we hold on to stored emotions and in our body. So, like, if your back is aching or your neck or something, it's like, what is going on? Like, why is my neck hurting? Like, why is my back suddenly hurting? Like, and you think about it and you go, okay, because your body will have pain and it will signal that pain in those spots where you have a stored emotion. So that's something that I encourage you to journal on. And let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, okay. So when we're creating our new meal plans, like this meal plan that I was showing you over here, um well, scrambled eggs and toast for breakfast. One thing is, like I said, I love sourdough bread. I enjoy making sourdough bread. So, of course, I enjoy eating it. So, for me, like, I figured out the calories that, like I said, it's something that I eat, but I created a new positive thing around that. And I've created positive memories around like different foods. Like, let's see, for example, my cabbage lasagna, the recipe I was looking up, my mom makes cabbage lasagna. So it's something that's healthy, but it also reminds me of my childhood. And there's other things that I've found, like tacos, for example. I really love tacos. I really love Mexican food. I have a lot of like fond memories of going to like parties with friends and having like really yummy, authentic Mexican food. Well, the problem is all of that heavy dairy causes a lot of inflammation in my body. So I had to find alternatives for tacos that don't, or any kind of Mexican food that don't use like one thing that I really like a lot, and it might sound weird, is potato tacos. Like you just take potatoes and you like can stick them in the air fryer and then you stick them in a corn tortilla with some cilantro and some pico or whatever. And I swear it's so good. That's like one of the things that I love. And it's an alternative to say maybe having something that was like full of cheese and sour cream and stuff like that. So I encourage you to find alternative, healthier options maybe to foods that you like, and also create positive memories around them. Your food is not meant to punish you. But also it can be fun, and it can be, you can turn it into a tribal, like a social thing. Like you could say, hey, I've always wanted to try cabbage lasagna. Why don't I make that and invite some friends over to have it with me, or something like that? And or you're like, oh, try a new food each month. That's one of my things. I love making like a new recipe every month. Like I love cooking. And so for me, it's fun to just go on Google and just like start typing in random ingredients and things and being like, oh, well, what recipe can I find with these random ingredients that I like have in my house or that I know is good for my body? And then it's like, oh, well, this is a recipe I've never tried before. These are new foods that I've never tried. Maybe like, let's do this. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all in the process, right? You're getting to know, basically, what I'm asking you to do is get to know your taste buds again and get to know, figure out the foods that you like. And if you think that you're one of these people that maybe has emotions that are tied to certain foods, I suggest doing a journal exercise and asking yourself, like, well, if you think that maybe you have a good memory associated with something like cookies, like I said, then, and it's with your grandma, then journal, like write a letter to your grandma and say, oh, grandma, I loved when we got to bake cookies together, and I loved that experience that we got to share. And every time I have a cookie, I I think about you, and you just say all of the things, like all the gooey, lovey, all the things that you want to tell your grandma about that experience. And then look at that once it's out, and then it's like, you know what? I can release that, not release the memory, but release that attachment to the food that maybe has that memory with the cookies. Be like, okay, maybe I have a cookie only once a month or once a week or something. Oh, that's something else I do. I let myself have one meal once a week that I know that my body might not exactly like that much, but I'm very intentional about it now. In the beginning, when I was first releasing weight, I would just like find the fattiest like food like that was packed full of dairy, like maybe I would go to Cafe Rio and get a quesadilla or something, right? And I would eat that. But then the more now that I have been intentionally eating for my body and not for my brain, eating to fuel my body and take care of my body and take care of like eating the foods that my body likes and that makes it work optimally, right? Now I don't want to eat those foods because like a cheese quesadilla or something, because I know it gives me inflammation and I feel like crap and I'm paying for it. Why should I punish my body with the food that I eat? No, I don't want to punish my body. I want to actually reward it and show it that it's doing a good job. So another thing that I suggest is maybe before you go and you make your meal plan and you're thinking about like figuring out, oh, and if you need to figure out your calories for your meals, the deficit that you need to be in, you can just go anywhere online. They have like calorie things, and you just can say, how many calories do you think I should be eating a day or whatever, and you put it in the calorie calculator. Just do a Google search for it. It's super easy, and then it will figure it out and estimate the calories, and then you can adjust it based on that. And then again, when you're creating your meals, if you make sure that they're higher in protein, you will feel full fat like longer. And then you won't be having these other cravings for these snacky foods and stuff like that. Like one of the things that I love to do, I love nuts. And so for me, that's like a really good snack. Plus, it's really good for inflammation. And so nuts will keep you full longer than, say, if you ate something like, I don't know, chips. That was my thought. That one I'm still trying to heal, the chip one, because I have a lot of good memories around them, but I also anyway, that's gonna go on a tangent. So what I was gonna suggest is before you create this meal plan, there's an exercise that I like to do whenever I just feel like I need to give my body some extra love. And I like to write a thank you letter to it. Thank you for all of the things that it's done for me and how it served me and taken care of me. And in exchange, I want to thank it back by giving it healthy foods and things that are going to reduce inflammation and stuff like that. So for this week, I suggest when you're creating your meal plan, write a thank you letter to your body, thanking it for all the things it does. And then after you've wrote a thank you letter to your body, if you feel inspired, have your body write back to you. My body writes back to me all the time. So then you just write another letter. So you write, dear, and whatever your name is. And then you write whatever your body is telling you, because your body has a message for you. I know it does. So, and then the other thing is, if there's something that's like a good memory that is associated with some type of food that you can think of right off the bat, go ahead and like write a letter to that person that you have that good memory with, thanking them for those amazing memories and thanking them for, all of that stuff. And then have them write a letter back to you, whether they're dead or alive. You can channel them, their energy, and you can write a letter back of all the things that you think that they would say to you after you thank them for those positive memories. And that way you can just release that. Like, you can feel that love and take it in. And you don't need to have the cookies or the chips or any of that anymore, because you're taking in that love. Now, is it going to work after one time? Maybe. Or maybe you're going to have to do it a few times. I'm still healing mine with the chips. But the point is that you're becoming aware and that you're becoming more intentional, and you're starting to bring all of these thoughts and these feelings up into your awareness, because as soon as we can bring them up into our awareness, we can get them up and out of us. And even if they're good feelings, we want to be able to recognize them. We might necessarily don't want to get them out of us, but we want to recognize them and we want to honor them and be at a place where we know that we can feel those feelings without eating like something, if that makes sense. And I know that I'm like telling you totally the opposite of what I told you before with the piece of chocolate. But what I do with the chocolate when I am intentionally anchoring in my warrior, it's one piece of chocolate. And like I said, I know that it works. When we anchor in a good memory with food, yes, it does. But like I said, it can also do the opposite effect if we're using it as a coping mechanism. So just be aware of that. And I will see you guys next week. Just have a great, fantastic day and love.